And that makes all the difference in the world. You and I have the illusion that we'll have a lot of time. When somebody gets a diagnosis, that illusion shortens somewhat. But in the shortening, like anything, when you have a little bit of time, your priorities get different. So my experience with kids with diseases is they get so loving and so open and so clear that many of us don't reach that at 60 or 70.
Exactly.
Because we're rushing around trying to pursue whatever it is. Well, Henry doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, that whole that whole of trying to be normal thing, like somebody else.
And that's the other thing. One of Henry's other messages is there's no place on the map called normal.
That's it. I'm going to write a book called "There Is No Normal." I just think it's a ridiculous thing that people spend their whole lives trying to be something that doesn't even exist.
What exists is to be your best self, whatever it is.
Exactly.
And AA has a great phrase. I work a lot with alcoholics, and it's we're sick as our secrets. So you end up having to be your best self, whatever that is. Whatever ways you're challenged, Henry just says, be who you are. Don't let anybody change you. Don't let anybody define you. I tried to make this animal into a dog because it was the only thing I knew. I had a pen. I tried to get him to sit up and come, and he looked at me like, meow. I don't think so. That's not going to happen.
Get over it.
But it reminded me of how much we try to impact each other to be something other than we are.
Right. And even we do it to ourselves.
We do it to ourselves all the time. And there was a wonderful quote, I think it was E. E. Cummings or T.S. Eliot, one of them that wrote, to be nobody but yourself in a world that invites you to be everybody but yourself is the single hardest thing that any of us can do.
It's true.
And that's the challenge. The challenge is be your best self, tell your story, because nobody will know what your story is. You know, what I'd want the kids with cancer to do is tell other kids and tell the world what your story and your life is like, because they won't know.
Right.
Unless you give words to it and you reach out and you tell it, and that telling of that story changes things for everybody. Not just for the person who's telling the story, but the person who's hearing the story. And that's what I've found in Henry telling his little stories, is people from all over the world have started to respond. And they write to him on this heart level, whether it's from Japan or from South Africa or wherever. The animals have a common language. It's love, it's unconditional love, it's healing, it's innocence, it's silliness, it's playing, and it makes a difference. So I don't see human beings very often anymore.
No,
I just
very
seem to
few.
Be working with, I seem to be working through an animal. Henry's my little therapist.
Yeah, so therapist. I love that phrase.
Because he is a therapist, and of course it has something to do with that his mom has been a psychotherapist for 35 years. But there is a different quality that when it's channeled through Henry, remarkable things happen. And when it's channeled through Henry and there's no diagnosis and there's no insurance code and there's no money exchange, there's no nothing. It's just buy my book, help my friends, and what can I do to help you? And that works in a magical way.
I bet you've seen all kinds of miracles happen.
Total miracles. Transformations of people who, by any standards, would be profoundly clinically depressed, and they start slowly to write Henry, and then every day they write Henry, and they say that Henry's the reason they have a reason to get up now, and then they start doing something, helping him on his mega mission of mercy to raise $1 million. That's I set a little goal for him. Raise $1 million, because in this culture, if you raise $1 million, you're a serious fundraiser. People will take you seriously. You're somebody. He's somebody anyway.
Exactly.
But I know that that's a magical number. So people end up saying, well, I can help you on that. And they write, I sold 10 of your books, and we gave the money to the cat shelter or the dog shelter or the fish shelter.
So who's keeping track?
I don't know.
Will you know? Well, will you ever know if it's reached $1 million?
Well, I'll know what we sell, but anybody in the world can order these books at cost and then give them to their local shelters. So I know how many books have gone out. Yeah, I know that.
So are we anywhere near $1 million?
Well, no, we've only been in existence 11 months, but we sold 5,000 books and they don't exist anywhere.
That's great. And say again how you distribute the books.
You can go to henrysworld.org, and since Henry's a country cat, he doesn't put an apostrophe, he doesn't know how to do that. henrysworld.org. You can read his adventures, you can buy his books, you can join a chat, you can start to write Henry. And that's all people have to do is find him on. He's a virtual pet, so he only exists in cyberspace in my home.
And you will send books at cost.
At cost, absolutely.
To an organization or a person, anybody who wants.
If you had an animal who had a vet bill that you couldn't pay, and which people have written Henry, he'll say, okay, I'll send you 10 books, sell them and keep all the money and pay for the vet bill. I'm not going to police it.
great.
The energy of it is healing. And
when you put it out there like that, where else is it going to go?
An epidemic of health, you know,
Yeah.
it goes from person to person. And when you expect trust, people are trustworthy.
Yeah. No,
so
I
Henry, one person wrote and said, what's the least number of books I can order for fundraising? He said, one. I'm not that kind of a guy. I mean, what do I care? And
Really?
that ensued a whole relationship with somebody who's now selling their home in Oregon, moving down and coming back to life because of Henry. And it started with how few can I?
How few can I get?
Yes. And it's transformed that person's life. So there's
And
all
if you
sorts
only
of
did that to
miracles.
one person's life, that would be a miracle.
That's true.
But to do it,
there's hundreds.
Hundreds of people and thousands of letters and
those are the
touching
letters
those that you
I
get.
get. And I know that Henry's paw pals say, I send them to 10 or 12 people, and when they don't hear from you for a week, they write me and ask, where's Henry and how's Henry doing? So I don't know who else is getting them. I know that I've answered 11,000 letters. And that sometimes
what a great thing.
boggles my mind. Well, it's sort of wanting to teach people that you don't have to be rich, you don't have to be powerful, you have to have a passion, you have to put it out there, and you have to reach out, and the two most important words in the English language, help me. And we ask for help, people say, well, what can I do to help?
It's true.
You know, and I said, well, tell your local shelter, tell your vet, tell them to start a Henry's World Fund, put the books out, have a fund for the poor when they come in, and because
Yeah.
our animals, we learned with Katrina that animals are parts of the family.
Right.
People died before they would let go of their animal when we wouldn't evacuate them. So we know that people live longer and healthier
Right.
when they have pets in their old age, and they can pet them and care and love. Well, he's just a virtual pet. There's a lot of people in nursing homes that sit and pet this little
the
kitty,
book, yeah.
and they read the letters and imagine that they got the letters. And in cancer centers, his books are there too. So it brings hope, I think. And there's no reason that Henry should be alive. And when you drop into the life of two dog-devoted people who don't like cats, and you need a $3,000 surgery, there's not a lot of reason that you're going to be
Yeah,
alive.
no.
But he is.
Would you have ever thought this would have happened to you?
Not in a million years. I mean, people have known me all my
What was
life.
your plan? I mean, your plan
I had no
was
plan.
to. Oh, your plan was. But you
My
would still
plan
have-
was to save his life and find a home for him. Maybe.
Right, and even before that, I mean, if he had never come into your life, what would it have been? I mean, it would have been, you would have still been a therapist, or you would have worked
Hopefully,
as...
yeah, I would have been a therapist, but this sort of happened once before. I started a project called the Real Women Project, and it started with a dinner conversation, and it ended up reaching 40 million people.
Cool.
So I had some
You know how to
idea.
reach out and touch someone, don't
Well,
you?
I found that there's a sort of ball that starts rolling, and then it has a life of its own. But that got too big, so I sort of released it to the universe and said, I'm going back to my backyard and do my private practice. And then Henry came along.
Yeah, the universe
that
was not
changed
about
everything.
to let you go,
No,
I
the
guess.
universe was not into my going back to private practice. So every so often I see a client or two in my office, and the rest of the 8 or 10 hours a day I'm answering Henry's emails.
That's hysterical.
What I would love is if the kids with cancer we'll be happy to give them some books and they start writing to Henry, because
Cool.
they need to tell their story. They need to tell what the medical system is like. They need to tell what their world is like. They need to tell what they're afraid of. They need to tell what makes them feel excited and happy. They need to tell that story because the rest of us are too busy.
Right.
Illness slows you down.
And we
on some
can't
level.
know what their life is like unless they tell us.
Exactly. So they hold this treasure of storytelling. And what Henry wants to do is say, tell me your story and I'll pass it on.
Because ultimately that would be invaluable information.
Absolutely.
What their lives are like, and from their point of view, because I mean, we who work in the community thinking we're doing these wonderful things could, from their viewpoint,
Yeah.
maybe not be so high.
And rapport is meeting people in their model of the
Right.
world. And the only way you can do that is if people tell you what their model of the world is.